Hey there, everyone. Happy Wednesday. My name is Jenn Walker Wall. I'm the founder of Work Wonders Careers, where we help mission-driven professionals make moves that matter through resume writing, career strategy, and community. If you are not familiar with our work, you can learn more at workwonderscareers.com. For those of you who have joined us before, welcome back. If you are new, welcome. If you are watching the replay, feel free to skip ahead a couple of minutes while we give everyone a minute or two to join us here live. There's always a little bit of a delay. But in case you're not familiar, these weekly lives are an opportunity for us to offer actionable insight to job seekers and professionals based on our 7 years of working with people and helping them land new jobs and thrive at work. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to discuss today's topic, which is 4 ways to explore your career options. I know thinking about what's possible is a very compelling part of the process, but actually exploring and learning more information and processing that information is another whole can of worms. So we're going to talk about that today, and I'm really excited. Hey, Peter. Hello. If you're here, feel free to say hello. While we're waiting for people to join us, just a couple housekeeping tips. If you want to get notifications when I go live, make sure you're following me here on LinkedIn. You can click on over to my profile and click follow. This is our third to last LinkedIn Live this summer. It's kind of hard to believe that we're kind of on the tail end of summer. And so we have this one this week. Next week, we are doing 25 ways to reinvigorate your career. So if you're in a bit of a career rut, job search rut, you're just not sure what's next, come join us next week. We're going to talk about how to give that feeling, which is very familiar to many people, somewhere to go. And we're going to move with some momentum and some direction with some tips that we'll share. And then on August 18th, I'm very excited to have my friend Shannon Siriano Greenwood join us, who's going to be talking about building connections for your career and why community is so important for career success. So I hope you'll be able to join us. We will be reconvening in the fall for sure, but we're going to take a little bit of a break at the end of the summer. One more thing. So if you're here, feel free. Hello. I'm going to dive into this topic, 4 ways to explore your career options. But one exciting thing I wanted to share before we get started today, because I want to be able to kind of reference it as I go through this, is we have just launched a suite of digital products. So for those of you who are either too busy or urgent to work with a job search coach or someone on our team, we have created 4 new digital products on demand to help you, and they are now available for purchase and for sale. So we're very excited about that. You can visit workwonderscareers.com/shop to check out those offerings. I'm very happy to be able to support job seekers who may not be working with us as a client or community member. And there's some really useful tools and templates, things that I'll be referencing and actually have referenced that have been available to our clients that we're now making available to purchase for people who just want a little bit of support here. So without further ado, let's dive into today's topic, 4 ways to explore your career options. Like, why is this such a tricky beast for so many people? What I hear a lot is that people feel like they're going around in circles. Like, they think they'd like to do something new. They're really unhappy in their current job, but very quickly those thoughts, become kind of blocked by some possibilities. Like, if I switch fields, do I lose seniority? Do I lose pay? Do I have to go back to school or reskill in a significant way? And what are the pros and cons of that? And another thing that can make exploring your options tricky is that so many job search sites, they get to know us and what we've done and kind of serve us options based on what they think we want to do, which is often based on what we have done. And it can kind of reinforce this idea that, maybe we're not prepared or in a good position to do anything but what we've done previously. And because it feels daunting or impossible, I think we really suppress a process that would allow us to explore what's possible. So many of you watching may know, if you're familiar with these, that I have a research background. And so I sometimes think about the research process when I'm thinking about the job search process. And what I find is that people are very quick to draw conclusions from what I think should be a hypothesis around like what's possible for you. So what I want to offer today is a way to kind of untangle the cycle in your head of like, I'd like to do something different, but that seems really impossible and I'm not sure what's available, and show you how to start moving things forward so you can collect some data, right? Sticking with the research theme here. We want to collect some evidence other than just some assumptions that we're making about what's possible for us career-wise. We don't want to draw conclusions until we've collected some evidence. We want to be able to make those decisions with more confidence, right? Like understanding really like what is required of us, what we have to offer. And I also just want to say this, there are roles, and you will see them. In fact, career transitioners or people exploring their options like really kind of always find these kind of postings that are roles you might feel intrigued or curious or excited about, but the qualifications are really for someone who has deep experience in the field. And I just want to offer that I think there are many roles that are not going to be the greatest roles for people making a pivot. Some roles and some opportunities will just be a better fit for people who do have, the skills and the experience and the know-how and the network in those specific fields. But what I want you to hear is that in the 7 years that I've been working with job searching clients, there are also roles that really leverage more soft skills or skills in a broader context. So analytical skills, relational skills, leadership skills, management skills, right? And so sometimes it's helpful to not double down on the roles that we're really underqualified for, that require a ton of experience and skills that we don't have, but to really think like, how can I leverage what I do have to contribute and enter into the process, assuming that you have something to offer, because it's very hard to have any kind of work experience and not have something to offer a professional situation. So let's talk about how to get out of your head and into an action plan with 4 possibilities for you. Now, if you are sort of on the precipice of a potential career change, the first thing that you want to do is spend some serious time in self-reflection. And for me, this looks like writing things down and documenting. And for those of you who tune in regularly, I might be sounding like a broken record right now. But that's because this is the step that a lot of people skip. We're driven by a sense of urgency, a desire to not be in our current circumstance. And to make a real strategic and intentional move, we need to be pulled by something else. We need some other element there. We don't just want to be leaving a job. We want to be moving towards something. And so that involves 2 components, which is knowing what you want out of your next role and knowing what you have to offer. The goal of this, self-reflection period isn't certainty. That's not what clarity is, but it is to have a good sense of like what your value proposition is, like what are the skills and experiences that you're bringing to the table. And we need to ask ourselves some potentially tough questions so that we can focus our time, have clear priorities, have confidence in a role and making decisions about roles to apply to or to pursue, and to know exactly what kind of skills and experience we're bringing to the table. Now, what do you need to know to be clear enough to move forward? There are a few things here that I would suggest. 1, what do you want more of? I think that that's a really important question. So what are the elements of your job or career that have worked well for you? And let's put them on like a goal board, like I'm not saying you need a vision board, but like that's what we want to be moving toward, right? Like put them on your mental vision board. And what do you want less of? So what are the things that you are trying to move away from doing? And make that really clear to yourself too. Another thing that I think is really helpful in terms of thinking about your value, because many job seekers are very disconnected to the value that they bring as an employee, is to think of 2 or 3 examples of work that you are really proud of. And what has that looked like? What were those contributions? Why are they a point of pride for you? And that's going to help you start to get at what you're bringing to the table day in and day out, and also what the impact of your work is. And that is almost always very compelling content. I say that as someone who solicits this kind of input from people as a coach and a resume writer. And we're really able to transform how these folks look on paper when we have a really good sense of what they're contributing day in and day out. One level of clarity that is often enough to start a job search is to be able to articulate what you've done and what you'd like to do next. One of our new resources, Work Words, which you can find over on workwonderscareers.com/shop, actually has like 25 reflection prompts. So for years, people have been like, where can we find all your reflection prompts? So that is a good example of where you could find some of those resources. And if you are looking for some more structure and direction beyond those 3 prompts, that is where I would check out. The other thing that we have in Work Words that might be really helpful for you are templates for talking about yourself. We have a whole section on networking, and that's when I've laid out some templates that we've used with clients, how to say, previously I've done this, now I want to do that, and here's what I'm looking for, because it can feel really complex to try and communicate where you are in the process when you don't have necessarily the clarity to say, I want to do X. And so we have some templates available there for you. The key here in this self-reflection phase is to know yourself and to lay the foundation for communicating what you want and need going forward in your process. This is the time where we focus on truth telling, right? Like, so if you're struggling or if you're challenged, if you're dealing with a toxic environment, this is a place to kind of think through and process that yourself and think through what do I need to see in a work environment that's going to make me confident that it's a healthier, better place for me. What happens in this place will often be part of your job search in terms of your resume and LinkedIn and cover letter, but it doesn't all need to be externalized. Like, there needs to be a place to kind of like dump some of the emotional parts of this process. And I find self-reflection a really productive place to do this, because when we can sort through those, we can have a lot of clarity over what we need to move forward. And that's what we want. Like, the answers and what you come up with in this process will help you move forward. And again, we're looking for less of a conclusion and more of a hypothesis. Like, I think if I had a more supportive manager, more resources and buy-in on my projects, and $10,000 more a year, I would feel really valued and be able to contribute at my highest level, right? Like, that's the sort of thing. And then we can sort through priorities and try to figure out what aligns and meets your criteria as we go through the hiring process. All right, reviewing job descriptions is the second piece here. So I'm a really big fan of using job postings, even if you are not ready to apply, because they are jobs that exist out there that are available. And it's an underrated exercise in career exploration to review what is out there, what we know exists, and to see where your attention and excitement goes. So we don't just need to wait until we're actively job searching. We can use this as like a more inductive strategy to build further clarity and do additional self-reflection. You can put aside what you're qualified for. I think that is a level that's closer to the job search process and less about exploration. When I ask clients to find 3 to 5 roles that excite, intrigue, or make them curious, they often bring roles that they are in fact qualified for. But truthfully, that's not the goal, because I want them to feel excited about what's possible, first of all. And second of all, we can always find a more junior role, right, that feeds into. So that kind of reverse engineering, that kind of tactical transition from exploration to job searching is not the hardest part in the process. The hardest part is often like helping people feel excited about what's possible for them. And looking at what's available with very broad strokes and a very big net kind of way can be helpful. And I suggest giving yourself a couple of weeks to come up with 3 to 5 jobs. We don't want to just pick one day and see what's available. Give yourself a little bit more time than that. And then you want to just look at the collection of jobs that you have curated for yourself and figure out, like, what is the through line here? What are the commonalities? What interests and goals are you honoring by selecting these jobs? There is often so much synergy between the roles. It's very rare that something is just really out of left field for people. Really, what I see, even if the job titles are different, even if the industries are different, people are doing the same things or leveraging the same skills, right? And so that's what I really think about is in terms of clarity is being able to articulate the skills that you're going to use and the skills that you're going to build and the interests and values that you're honoring in the process, not just a job title alone. Another good thing about using job postings in this way is that it can offer additional parameters for your search, right? So we can see, do these jobs have similarities? Are they in the same industry? Do they have similar titles? Are they in the same department? What's in common here, and how can we use that to inform a more structured search going forward? You can also kind of reverse engineer this in some interesting ways too. Like if you start noticing synergies around industries and types of companies, you can really start focusing on building relationships in those directions. You can find and follow those companies. You can find and follow those recruiters. You can find and follow those hiring managers and related team members and move in a direction of establishing relationships and following along. And with what the content is on LinkedIn, you can set up Google alerts and start collecting more information about what's going on at these organizations. This is a great bridge activity. And what I mean by bridge activity is it moves people from a place of exploration to a place of preparedness for the job search process. Many clients who complete this activity they realize that they're qualified for more than they think. They start to see what they need to do in terms of communicating their value and transferable skills. And by the time they're done, they're often ready to really start applying to some of these opportunities. So that's not necessarily the goal of the exercise. So if you're doing this completely independently, and we're not there to kind of walk you through this, I don't want you to necessarily have that expectation. But I do think that by the time you're done considering a handful of jobs and carefully reviewing them and reflecting on them, you will have a much better sense and be a little bit closer to the active job searching piece of this role. All right. So the third way here that we can kind of test this hypothesis or gather information for this hypothesis is to ask. And there's many ways that asking questions can be helpful here. Next month, I'm hosting a panel for one of our LinkedIn Lives, one of our fall kickoff events. And I'm asking a couple of our Work Wonders alum to return who've successfully made career transitions to share their story a little bit. And what I'm excited for you all to hear from the folks that I've invited is how they did their due diligence for their transition. The job search process and career change process is inherently unclear, uncertain, and anxiety provoking. No one knows how long it's going to last, like what's going to pan out if you're making the right decision, right? Like there's a lot of kind of second guessing yourself here while you're going through this. It's hard to even remember that you have agency in the process. Like it can feel like you're just waiting to be picked, waiting to be selected to see what comes to you. But in general, which you probably know if you're used to coming to our weekly LinkedIn Lives, is that we're big believers in also doing the picking. And asking is sort of one way that we can do that, one way that we can demonstrate agency and our own power in this process. So when the first thing I suggest that you do is to start to think about what you want more of and what you want less of, it's really important that you ask about that when you are doing informational interviews, when you are interviewing with teams, when you are negotiating. You have questions and concerns based on your experience and your needs. And I think it's really, really critical that you ask about that. I see some questions here. HR folks and hiring managers don't respond to connection requests or emails. Every single one I've reached out to in a year has not responded. Wow, Tara, I'm sorry to hear that. That is not necessarily something I see a lot of, but that is certainly possible. One thing that I do, like I experienced when I was on the other side, is that I get so many messages when there is an active job posting, and I could not respond to all of them. So what I often tell my clients is that I don't think a lack of response means they don't consider you. But I'm curious if they are not responding or are they not accepting your connection requests at all? Because sometimes I accept connection requests and don't respond to messages just because they're of the volume. But I'm just curious about that. One of the things that I encourage our clients to do is to be really proactive in that relationship building, because I think it can be too late by the time a job is posted, to be completely honest. Like I was just sometimes too inundated by people who wanted to follow up or check in or reach out in a personal way to really respond to the volume. Interesting, Tara. So I would be curious. I don't know about the kinds of industries that you're exploring. So I would be curious if the industries you're exploring are active on LinkedIn. I would be curious about the kinds of messaging and framing and like what the ask is there. Another thing I encourage is to reach out and not necessarily reference a specific job posting, but to just reference an interest in being connected more generally. Because I think when people can't say yes or be immediately helpful, it might be easier to ignore the message. But if you have any questions about being more strategic there, let me know. I'm just kind of like talking off the top of my head and I'm not even sure that's helpful. So let me know if you want to talk more about that. Okay, I lost my train of thought here. Oh, so when I ask people to consider what matters most to them, like this is where we ask for it. Do you want to make sure the team that you're joining is a happy, generally, place to work? Ask for examples. Do you want to make sure there is ample time to be trained and mentored? Ask what that onboarding plan is going to look like or the professional development plan looks like. If you want to make sure that you'll continue to learn and develop, ask what that process looks like for people now. If you want to understand what concerns people might have about your candidacy, if you're making a transition, ask about that in the interview process. And so a lot of times, like we do have questions like that we offer clients to ask in these interviews. Some of those questions are also in our new WorkWords online library, digital library rather. But I think what's really important is that you ask about what matters to you, because we can't read everyone's mind, and we do want to encourage people to think like what needs to be asked about. So whenever a client says, "What should I ask at this interview?" I always say, what do you want to know? Because I think that's really what we need. That's where we need to help people come up with language and those templates and scripts so that they can ask about this. So yes. Okay. Now, the fourth step of career exploration is actually my favorite. I live in this space. And the fourth step is my favorite because people think they're not ready for it. And they tend to be way more ready than they think. And that is actually applying for jobs. There is no better way to learn about roles and companies and culture and to understand your value and the challenges of making some kind of transition that you will either need to negotiate or overcome than to actually be applying for jobs. I think of this as like the internship version of career exploration, right? Like you can go to school and study, but then you go and have your internship where you're supposed to like apply that knowledge. That's really what applying for jobs is. We're still like every application is a hypothesis, right? I think I would like to work here, ? Like we need more evidence there. And you're putting yourself to work. You are testing your hypothesis. You're exploring possibilities in very tangible ways. You're also creating opportunities to have conversations and build those relationships as part of the process. You will have reasons to regularly review job postings that will allow you to build additional clarity or see other opportunities and build confidence in conveying your talents and transferable skills and your value for different kinds of opportunities. And you'll have the chance of going through various interview processes where you'll get better at telling your story and communicating in that way. So there really is no better way to explore your options. And I think a lot of people think they need to come into the job search with a lot more clarity than they actually need. Even clients who come to me and aren't looking for a career exploration, when they apply, they're still not committing to those roles. They are still exploring those roles. And of course, as you go through 3 or 4 rounds of interviews, that could be a little bit different. But when we apply for jobs, we are exploring possibilities. And so there's no reason, even if you are interested in a couple of different areas or are really uncommitted, as long as you can kind of focus your job search enough to find compelling opportunities that you can apply for, you can do way more tactical job searching way more tactical exploration through actual job searching. Let me see, did I miss anything here? Let me say if anyone has any questions or wants to talk through, oh, hey, Maya. I'm in the exploration phase with UX design, but made a pivot into tech by taking on an operational role that's not taking those creative boxes and interviewing for similar roles to get into a better company. Do you think this type of hopping around is problematic? I actually don't think this is hopping around. There's actually, I wish I could, I'm going to try and find it and put it in the comments here, but it was tweeted like a couple of years ago, but there's someone who's actually shown that like millennials don't job hop more than anyone else ever did. I sort of feel like that's been weaponized against us a little. I think, and sorry, there's a helicopter flying over my house at this very moment. I think that you are responsible for your career. And if moving and transitioning is what you need to do to get closer to your goals, and as long as you're showing up to the job that you have and doing the best that you can while you're there, you don't owe anyone any more than that. You always want to like keep, I don't want to say you don't always want to, but if it's healthy enough, you want to maintain those relationships and those potential referrals and potential future colleagues that I think can be really, really helpful. But I don't think moving in the direction of your goals is hopping. It's progress. I guess if someone doesn't want you to leave and wants you to work for them till the end of time, then they might feel like you're hopping around, but there's probably not much you can do around that. So, Belinda, yes, it will. Maya, let me know if that answered your question. I'm happy for you. I think that's great. So let me know if you want me to go into more there. Francine, would you say that it's especially critical to include a cover letter when applying for a job where you're transitioning your skills? Well, Francine, all career coaches think it's critical all the time to use a cover letter. I would say instead of critical, like the language I would like to think is like, I think it's advantageous for people making a transition to use a cover letter because there's more to your story there, right? And that's what you want to take advantage of, the opportunity to write a cover letter and submit a cover letter to convey that as much as possible. So I do think that it could be advantageous to have a little bit more space. Another place where you want to pay particular attention to is like the top third of your resume. We use something called the summary of qualifications. And that's really what we want. That's where we highlight the most relevant parts of your experience based on the job at hand. So that is where we convey transferable experience. And that's what, that's the strategy that we teach resume wise. And actually we have Resumes That Resonate is one of our webinars that's now available on demand for purchase on our site. So if you wanted more support there, that would be the place to check that out. You're welcome, Maya. Yes, I'm thrilled for you. I think that's a really good, fascinating, interesting decision. And you have lots of transferable experience to move into a space like that. So, so that's great. Good for you. All right. So I'm going to do just a last call for questions. If anyone else has anything, feel free to drop them in the chat. For those of you who might have missed earlier or joined us late or having some tech issues, we have just launched our digital shop, our suite of digital products. So for those of you who are looking for like not to work with a career coach for 3 months, but are looking for like a quick burst of inspiration and strategy, we now have 4 digital products available on our website, workwonderscareers.com/shop. We have WorkWords, which is a digital library of templates, scripts, and prompts to help mission-driven professionals navigate job searching and life at the office. And we have Uncomplicate Your Job Search, our signature workshop, which is now available on demand. We have Resumes That Resonate, which is also available for purchase and walks people through how I upgrade people's resumes, both with our coaching clients and resume writing clients. And we have the Uncomplicate Your Job Search Toolkit, which is like our greatest, I'm going to call it my greatest hits album. That's probably overselling it a little bit since I'm not an actual rock star, but it's all of our most popular workshops in one place. So if you are looking for some more support, head on over there. We're really excited to be able to offer something like this. Otherwise, thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching. If you know someone in your network who is exploring their career options, feel free to give this a share and feel free to tag me if you want. Otherwise, I will see you back here next week for 25 ways to reinvigorate your career. So if anyone here is stuck in a career slump, I hope to see you next week. All right. Have a great week, everyone. Talk to you soon.